NFTs 1.0 was like the minting. So like getting things done, making sure that something could get on the blockchain, that people could own it, and that you could then start delivering value to the NFT. NFTs 2.0 is integrating NFTs much more largely into a broader system. So in my opinion, I think that NFTs that then create ecosystems is going to be really important. There's only 10,000 of them, 5,000, however many a collection has. But there's so many different interactions and things that you can offer.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Mark Peter Davis, managing partner of Interplay. On this podcast, I interview innovators about their strategies, industries, and decisions. On this week's episode, I chat with Sterling Campbell, CEO of Minotaur. Minotaur is a Web3 platform that helps people and brands launch NFT projects. Now, there are a lot of steps in launching an NFT project, including a fair bit of technical requirements, and it's super complicated. Minotaur's tech-enabled service does all of this and makes the process simple. As they put it, they bring together artists, blockchain engineers, community managers to build successful NFT projects that can scale. Now, Sterling has been in the NFT space since 2017, which for this industry is quite a long time. So he's been around the block a few times and learned a bunch of stuff. If you are still scratching your head at this point in the game about what NFTs are, well, then this is a good conversation for you because he breaks it down pretty well and explains how this whole thing works. He also dives into what's wrong with the industry right now. And he is hoping for a transition to what he calls NFTs 2.0, where NFTs flip from their focus on just providing membership access to being technically more integrated into the broader ecosystem and enabling them to provide more value to the members of the community. Sterling is definitely the right guy for the space. He has lived at the nexus of media, entertainment, and business. And as far as the space being too risky, well, that's not really an issue. During the conversation, Sterling tells us about the time he was skydiving and his parachute didn't open. Oh yeah, and if that wasn't enough, he's also a DJ that toured with the likes of Little John and T-Pain. Enjoy the conversation. This episode is brought to you by Firon Marketing. Firon Marketing is a full-service marketing firm providing high-quality, cost-effective solutions. They support companies in developing websites, creating content, email marketing, optimizing SEO, and managing ad campaigns on social media, Google, and beyond. What's unique about their approach is that they connect all of the marketing activities together to create a unified conversion loop and generate higher yield for clients. If you're interested in learning more, visit fironmarketing.com. Sterling, welcome. Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you having me.
Awesome. So let's start off by diving into Minotaur. Do you want to give us an overview of what the company does?
Yeah, totally. So Minotaur is a full service end-to-end solution for NFT creation for brands and creators. So on one hand, it's a white glove agency for top tier creators and brands. On the other hand, it's a self-serve platform that enables long tail creators to build their own NFT projects. The whole reason for creating the company is the fact that like interacting with the blockchain is extremely important for long tail creators to own their audiences and to own their own monetization. But at the end of the day, it's really hard because you have to find a Solidity dev, you have to understand the crypto space, you have to understand the crypto communities. And we really just wanted to make that easier for long tail creators, but also enable all of our idols to kind of jump in and make their own projects as well, who need a more white glove treatment. So it's a nice little hybrid there.
And so folks doing, NFTs before, they were finding their own teams of people who were kind of experts in the space and kind of putting it all together. And now you guys show up in your one-stop shop. Is that the right way to think about it?
Yeah, there's a couple things. We always make the joke that like half the celebrities that we talk to or half the creators we talk to, it's a bunch of kids in hoodies that come in and they're like, let us do your NFT project. You'll make millions of dollars. Like, and they have no idea what they're doing. They have no idea what they're agreeing to. And for us, it's like, we come from a place of trust. A lot of the people at the company worked in entertainment before, so we know we have strong trust in the ecosystem. But at the same time, it's also abstracting a lot of the complexity out. So you're not overwhelming them with like, now you have to talk in this Discord and you have to go on this Twitter Spaces and all the stuff that again like they don't really want to do. But at the end of the day, know that they have to do in order to kind of convert into this opportunity. So for us, it's one-stop shop, but also we're there for the strategy. We're there for everything else. Because we think it's important in these early days for projects to have as much in them as possible. And we really want to stand above in terms of quality.
Can you give us some examples of folks you've worked with? Who's used you guys to do their NFT drop?
Yeah, so we built the tech for Creature World with Danny Cole. Danny is an artist in New York. He did 150 million in secondary revenue on his project. He's currently building out the second phase of it. Really strong artist with a really cool. Anyone that hears Danny talk, it's so electric that people have to buy, which is kind of the main driver of the secondary. But also, so much really cool tech went into building that project. There was a game before you minted. There was a way to change metadata of the actual NFT you have. There's a lot of like really cool things that happen there. Another project is Castle Kid with Colin Tilley. Colin Tilley is a Grammy Award-winning director. Has done a bunch of music videos for Justin Bieber and a bunch of other big acts. That one has been really ambitious in terms of our rollout. We were the fastest project to ever. We had the most traits ever in a project, which ended up being a little bit more of a problem than it was a success. We also did the fastest time to merch in terms of token gated access to things. He's doing a masterclass on producing and directing, and then the longer term plan here is to do the first feature film based on NFT sales. So allowing the community as a DAO to decide the future of the film, to contribute to its creation as well as its actual recording, and like the post editing process and all of those other areas, and then being able to be that first film kind of created out of a DAO, which we're really excited about. Those are just a couple. I've done a bunch of advisory work for a bunch of different projects, some of which is public and some of which isn't, but I've been around the space since 2017, so I've definitely had my fair share of interactions and on the blockchain.
Which is a long tenure in this industry.
Yeah, I think it's like one of the longest. Everyone's always like, I was in crypto since whatever, and like no one can say like NFTs since that long, other than like a very select few, which I think I've always kind of clung to a bit.
What does the service at Minotaur do and not do? Like, where do you guys start and stop?
So we're there from day one if we can be. For Castle Kid, for example, the actual creation of the IP happened on like one of the first calls. So we sit from strategy all the way to follow through. One thing that we're really starting to work on now, and like one of our early learnings, was that the follow through is fairly important. So like creating the proper incentives to attach us to things without hurting our scalability is really important. But there's so many like hacks that we have for scalability and so many different ways that we can dog food our own products that now everyone on our team, come the end of this month, will be able to launch their own project. So essentially can run the process from start to finish. And we don't necessarily need this team hopping from project to project like we previously did. But to be honest, like we continue support now. It's been about 3 months since we minted Castle Kid, and we're just hammering each of the roadmap items. The other part about that that's really nice is that every time we do something, it's tech that can service the rest of the projects that we do. So as soon as we built like a DAO workflow, one-click DAO, now we can add that to any project. So any projects that we do now, and this has been what we've been working on over the past couple months, any projects that we do now can come ready to rock, so you can keep that momentum. So you're not, launching a project and then saying, all right, now we're going to go build all the stuff that we said we were going to. Now it's like, here's what we're promising, and we can deliver, 75% of this on day one, and then you get the journey of the rest. So you get to have that cool experience alongside the medium.
Okay, so let's say someone listening to this decides, all right, I want to do one of these. How much time and planning do they need? How long does it take from the time they drop you guys an email to the time something's happening?
Yeah, it's a hard answer. I always hate to say like it depends, but it kind of depends on a couple things. One thing is speed of the art. I think it's really hard to. The two biggest bottlenecks are community and art. A lot of the tech that we have now is super scalable, so we can launch a DApp and all that stuff in about 3 days. The hardest part is like getting a project that people want to buy. The space is changing so much from these like cash grabs and unsustainable times to what I keep calling like NFTs 2.0, where it's people are actually finally demanding something. They're not okay with just, hey, we're going to do a game, and then obviously the game never gets made. Now they're finally demanding something that's actually concrete and done. So those are the two biggest blockers in our mind. Like the actual launching of a project has now become fairly commoditized on our personal end as a company. Mm-hmm. It's really about finding the right project. So it's cool. We're doing a project now with a $500 million fashion company. We're doing another one with Pulitzer Prize winning cartoonists and things like that. Major athletes, major celebrities, people that are idolized in their relative countries, like all these different types of verticals. Because now we're moving from this era of like just promising stuff to like, let's go actually do this. Let's go actually deliver this stuff. Right. And that's really a really cool place for us to move. So to answer your question, 6 to 8 weeks, I think is like a clean time for the launch. But again, at that point, you don't have too much. It could also be 3 to 4 months. It all kind of depends on what you're offering and kind of the angle that you're taking to sell the project.
Got it. So who's a good fit? Who should reach out to you if they hear this?
I think people that are good at building communities. Honestly, like I published something on value recently. It's something that I've been thinking as like a founder and someone who's also been an investor for most of my career. Like I think about value less than I probably should, but now it's come to the point where I really analyze like what people find value in, and I think the biggest early value creator is community. I think the idea that there's no real places right now where you can like synchronously talk to people. You have Twitter and all these other Reddit and all these other places where you can say your opinion. Someone will eventually get to it, and you can have that interaction. But Discord and token gated communities and all this is such a cool way to like get that live. I can jump into a Castle Kid Discord and talk to 100 people, and like that type of engagement and like attention is something that the average person just doesn't have, right? Like superstars get that type of attention, anything that they do, but the average person doesn't get like thousands of people reading their thing, whatever they have to say, and like reacting to it and all these other things very, very well. So I think communities is number one. Beyond like celebrity, we've learned a lot actually about all that stuff. The second is like, do you actually want to build in the space? We try as hard as we can to avoid cash grabs. We don't like to work with celebrities or any creators that we see don't actually want to do the project, don't actually want to follow through on what they're saying. And even if they balk at like early engagement, like they don't want to talk to their community, they don't want to do it, then it's like, we don't want to just launch stuff and get people hurt. Like it's bad on our brand and it's bad on their brand. So those are the two biggest things for us. Like, do you actually want to do this? Do you actually want to be in this for a long term? Because Web3 is going to be around for a while, and you only get so many bites at the apple here. And we try to communicate that as much as possible and try to preserve our brand as much as we can.
So I was just at a conference and they had someone come and talk about NFTs, and I could see it was like mostly over the head of everyone in the audience. Could we do a quick NFT 101 and just dumb the hell out of this? If you wouldn't mind starting with an overview, but then I'm gonna ping you with a couple of topics or words that everyone's hearing just to make sure they get the lay of the land. That works. All right. So you want to just start NFTs? What are they? Start there.
Yeah, perfect. So NFTs are basically it stands for non-fungible token. The idea is that it can't be changed. It's immutable. It is a unique piece of art or an item on the blockchain. It's different from like a US dollar, for example, where like if you have $100, 100 single US dollar bills, they're all the exact same. They might have different serial numbers, but they're interchangeable. NFTs technically are not all the same, right? Like they're part of collections, but they all have unique qualities. This is most obvious in terms of like traits. So if you look at like the Bored Ape Yacht Club or any of these things, each one of those NFTs is part of a collection that carries like certain attributes, but they're all different. Some of them have hats, some of them don't. The utility of that stuff doesn't really matter. It's more like a rarity thing. Like this is the rarest thing, which again, if you look at like baseball cards or other things, you can kind of see why people care about that. It's not something that I personally care about as like I'm not like a collectibles person as much as I am like a utility person. But the cool part about this is not that you get cool art of a monkey that is unique, but rather the fact that the underlying technology of that photo, of that JPEG, is more than a JPEG. It is your ticket to things. It is your membership. It is your access code. It's your authorization. You don't use your email to sign up for things in Web3. You use your wallet and you use your identity, your metaverse identity to jump into these things. So the problem with NFTs largely, and like the confusion, is that people see a picture of a monkey and they're like, how is this worth like $100,000? Like, I don't understand it. And to be honest, like there are times in which I don't understand it either. And there are times when like value gets decoupled from price. And I think that's a really important like thing that people are learning for the first time in these markets, given that they've been told their whole life that like markets are efficient and all this other stuff. The reality is that like if they're not, and it becomes a lot more apparent the true speculative value of these things when all of a sudden that JPEG is getting you on a yacht or is getting you into a conversation with Steph Curry, or any of these things are happening, which all carry a higher value. I'm not going to pretend like it's $100,000 worth of value, but I will say that like a lot of utility can be delivered to these things, and people interact in this way already. It's just they buy tickets to things. It's just a different mechanism for delivery. And I think that the jump is not as big as people think, and I think people are so scared because all the buzzwords and all the nonsense, and it's really a lot of the same stuff we're doing now, just in a smoother, hopefully going to be a smoother way.
Yeah, that's the thing that made it click for me a while back, was when I realized it wasn't really just an art technology, which I want to talk about. At its core, it's a really good ticketing system, right? That's the language. You're using that. I don't hear a lot of people even in the space talking about it that way. But that's when it clicked. Because that makes sense. Like you can imagine you're going to, NBA game and you've got some digital asset that looks cool. It's got a little bit more fun character than a QR code on a ticket, right? But it also has the same effect, gets you in. And the person who wants to let you in knows it's you and you've paid for it. That's the core foundational layer of this, right? And we're applying it to art now.
Totally.
That's where this is starting. Right.
Well, the cool thing is that you're applying it to artists, and like that's why it gets so broad, because all of a sudden, like utility around an art, like a musician, for example, is massive. Like you not only get something that could give you early access to their albums, but also you could get a VIP ticket, right? Like there's so many different layers in which you can add utility to these things, and it's funny because we've done all that we can to like decouple and like unbundle all of the services and like make them all these little point solutions. And like now we're moving back into this, like, let's bundle it all up. Like, let's find super fans and let's have them pay for something that gives them the best access as possible. Let's not do like a Patreon and then like a VIP ticket and all these other things. Let's just front run revenue and couple it all into this, $400 asset that goes directly to the artist as opposed to all these different platforms. OnlyFans takes 25%, Twitch takes 50%. Like the numbers are staggering when you think about like the creator economy is not owned by creators. It's owned by platforms. And that's what's so cool. You're getting a ticket to like their show. It's not just like a physical experience, but like you're getting a deeper ticket to like the journey of the artist. So Danny Cole's a great example. He had 7,000 followers. He was about to begin his journey as a well-recognized artist. And all of a sudden you get a ticket to that. So now I get a front row seat. I get first access of everything he's doing. And there's upside that's tied to it. So not only that, it's like if I'm a hipster and I'm like always talking about the musicians that I saw first, I can buy that NFT as like a investment in the artist. Which again, there's a bunch of complexities and difficulties that come with like decoupling art from like investment opportunities. There's a reason like we don't usually do that. Kind of ruins the fun a little bit, but yeah, at the same time, it adds benefits to everyone as well.
Right. So another way to put it is it's a supercharged membership card to a community.
Yep, or brand.
But it's a unique card into itself. That's a little bit of a status symbol because it looks cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And you can flex that like no one owns this unique one. And that's why where rarities get important. Again, like when I traded NFTs and was flipping them like a madman, I never cared. The only time I would get excited is if I happened to mint one and it happened to be rare and I would get more money than I would have otherwise. But people like it. People like the social
proof. You're a
proof.
capitalist.
And I'm not going to pretend. Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to pretend like I don't know why it's happening. It's just not for me personally.
Right. Okay. So when everyone's hearing art and community, those are the kind of core pieces. They're coming together around these membership type organizations. Now, can you give a little overview on Discord? Everyone's hearing about it. I think a lot of people don't know what the hell it is. Will you cover that?
Yeah, this is one of our biggest challenges with bigger brands who obviously the demographics of them are not necessarily crypto native. So Discord started as originally it was like a 4chan style like hell spot for like a bunch of degens, and it then became like a gamer mechanism. And like I remember it was the only way that I could like play video. I used to literally grab my cell phone and I would call my friends when I was a kid and just talk to them on the phone because I didn't have a mic and we were playing on a computer game. So there was no voice chat. And I just remember doing that so much. And the Discord enabled me to voice chat with my friends, to create parties, like to create group chats that like they weren't like green bubbles because someone had an Android. Like it just was a really smooth experience and really nice for that. You could create specific channels. You can make things private. Like it just became a really cool place just to hang out and talk. And the NFT space has completely taken it over. Same with Twitter also. Is like those are the two hubs in terms of like where crypto groups hang out. And Discord's really nice because there's so many different tools that are being built to token gate things. Again, they're all manual. Discord isn't really doing a lot of these things. I'm sure they're doing them in the background, but
when you say token gate, you mean you have to have the NFT membership card. Just making this dumb to get access to the Discord channel.
No, please. Yeah, I'm a little bit too in it sometimes.
You're in the jargon.
I miss the forest for the trees. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So please stop me if that happens. But yeah, so that's the thing is some of our biggest channels, right? Like a place where I share all of the alpha, which is basically the word for like any tips that I get on like, hey, this is going to be a hot project, or like, Justin Bieber just got involved in this, like whatever it is. Which again, like there's complexities to that as well, like sharing alpha and all that stuff, information, asymmetry and things like that. But those channels you can only get to if you buy the NFT. And that's really like where the value of community actually is demonstrated, right? Like that's where you decide, that's where the market decides, like, this is such an exclusive group. There's only 10,000 of these. I want to be able to talk in this group. So you buy an NFT and then all of a sudden you get access. It was the main reason actually why I wanted a Bored Ape so bad. In the beginning, when I was just a young pup in the space, I was like, everyone talked about how great the community was. And I was like, I don't really know what they do, but the community sounds dope. It sounds like it's a bunch of really smart people who have all believed in this for longer than everyone else. And like, I'm going to get involved here. And it's just funny because like I'd write about this all the time too. Like I did. Yeah. I've had.
And how great is the community?
This is the big thing. And I don't want to, I've been called like a more bearish founder, which I think is actually benefit in the space. Like I've been called bearish like a couple, and some people are like, why are you fudding my bags? Like, why are you, and fudding is fear, uncertainty, and despair. Basically any type of negativity is like cast out in the communities. And it's like, if you're not like drinking the Kool-Aid, people will get really angry. But the reality is like, I joined it and I remember being like, I'm in some way sicker spots like already that are like way cheaper. And I've met a lot of apes and like, they're great people. The apes in general, like Yuga is like unbelievable in terms of what they're doing. They're going to be, it's an inevitability. I think it's a no brainer in terms of opportunity there. But it is just funny that like sentiment is just purely dictated by price in that type of industry. And everyone will hoorah and talk about how great the community is when the price is going up, and then the price goes down, the community abandons it because people aren't actually driven by community. They're driven by value and they're driven by price. And like, again, that's totally fine. Everyone has their own thing, but it was just funny to me to get in. And I was so excited to like link my NFT and like start talking. I had this big, like, what's up guys? Like, here's who I am. And just like kind of fell flat. And the rest of it was like, just kind of whatever. Definitely not worth the price of admission now. I'll tell you that. But I will say that like, it is speculative assets, like, right? Like the value that, if you had an ape, like the value that you've been given in terms of dollars is like undeniable. The amount of times you've been airdropped things or any of the like crypto ethos style like benefits that are unique to crypto have come to you. You know, people have made hundreds of thousands of dollars just by holding one of these things without ever liquidating. So it's all really interesting, and I toss it over in my mind like all the time.
And it's a big status symbol, right? Like everyone's got their Twitter handle, their profile pictures of their ape if they have one.
Yeah, that's the thing that I miss the most, I would say, is having that got me many more Twitter followers. That's the other part. I think I've written about this in my last piece. It was basically like this amount of people have not had this level of like mini celebrity ever before. And the fact that you can buy something for a couple $100 and then all of a sudden have 500 new friends, people through the pandemic and all these other random things, like they're thirsty for community. They're willing to get outside of themselves or any rational thought that they had before they got red pilled by crypto. Like they're now just aping into anything that will give them that sense of like, for just a moment, that like quick hit of dopamine of seeing those notifications pop up. And I see it all the time. Even my own co-founders who have like built small Twitter followings of their own, they get very fired up when that type of stuff happens. It's the only reason I think some of them buy NFTs. It's like just that dopamine rush of like more bodies, right? Like it's just an interesting thing.
So what's your biggest hit to date? You guys have been doing this. You're kind of the backbone. You're one of the main people in this market helping people push these out. What's the stuff that, you kind of hang your hat on at this point?
So the three case studies that we talk about are like our involvement with Boonji, who did 15 million in primary. We did like the social. I published an article in Forbes on them and really helped build that team out. On the tech side, this was before we had incorporated as a company, but we had done Creature World. It had done 150 million in secondary, the tech side of that. So those were the two, like we did like a piece solution of a larger project. CastleKid to date is like our biggest like end-to-end success. It taught us a tremendous amount. The whole goal of CastleKid was always to be like a proof of concept that we can not only show to other artists and other creators, but also one that we can like learn everything we could about every single step in the process. I had before that done an advisory project, something like that. I had launched a smart contract. I had built a generative algorithm. I had done all these things like by hand, like painstakingly. I'd learned enough solidity to be dangerous. And I knew that I could do the full end to end, but doing the full end to end and having all these things linked, it does create a lot more complexity, does create a lot more needs, and being able to roll with the punches and be agile and those types of things is also really important. So the successes have been different in terms of monetization. The largest success in my mind in terms of the future of the company has been CastleKid. I think we've built more overall tech. It put our heads down and said we need to actually like standardize a lot of this stuff. I need to actually arm my people And in the meantime, we've just been heads down on signing a bunch of stuff. I think the biggest things we have are the biggest successes we're going to have are going to be done over the next couple months. Our pipeline has so many names on it that it's become its own section of our Slack of just like pure deals that we're doing. We've signed multiple major brands. We're now the preferred partner of Warner Music Group and several talent agencies, just given our connections. And we've really just been getting our ducks in a row and parsing through all of the demand in order to kind of figure out our go forward, just given the fact that this started with, literally started with 2 kids in a small crowded apartment and has grown now. And our team is, dozens of people in terms of part-timers and our overall ecosystem of mods and things like that. So very quick growth and just kind of scaling that has been a lot. But yeah, CastleKid's been our biggest, I would say.
That's awesome. And whenever I hear an entrepreneur saying, hey, we went down and we did this really hard thing, I'm hearing them clear away the forest to make it easy for the next person. So that's the value creation, right? People come and use your service now, and to them it seems easy because you've done all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, it does. So this is my favorite part about this is that I've had so many people reach out and say like, hey, I want to do a project and like, can you help me? And I was like, yes, you just wait a second and I'll give you all of the stuff that we did in a nice little package. Like, wait, it was supposed to be done this week. Ukraine stuff has pushed us back a little bit since that's a good portion of our team there. And they all say that. And then I see them all start a project. I said, look, start your Discord. You have the art. You have all this stuff. Start your Discord. You don't need me yet. I'll help you. I'll do the tech for you. I promise. Like I'll do the contract myself if that's what it comes down to. But like go try to build a community. And they all fail. It's the same as podcasts, right? Like they say like it's after 2 episodes, most people quit or something. It's the exact same thing. Getting that first 1,000 people is the most grueling. I sent over 10,000 messages in the Discord, in my own CastleKid Discord. And that's a lot. Like that's a lot of time. I wish I could
see
the
hand
hours
typing
spent
those?
in there. Hand typing them. Yeah. I was in there. I was blessing people to whitelist by hand because of the fact that being real, being genuine was so important. And like now we have automated stuff. We have whitelist bots. We have games. We have all these things. But the reality was like, I needed to know every single little piece of it in order to know where the problem points were and how I can be value accretive. The reality is that like we're sitting in the time of email. We're in like the 1990s. When again, I wasn't sending emails back then, but I heard a lot about it. They used to hire agencies to code emails. And I think that's where we are in NFT space. Like, I think there are so few Solidity devs that it's like the pricing is ridiculous. The money is insane. That like, it's really easy to like hold on to that stuff, but margins are going to compress and you really need a way to like solve pain points for the future. So for us, it was always like, why don't we just have this all-in-one solution? We've already done everything ourselves. And then now when people hit me up and it's like not a project that I think needs like custom tech, I just say like, hey, like wait 2 weeks and I'll just give you a nice little package. I'll take way less than I'm going to charge you otherwise. And then everyone wins. If you go build your community, we both win. If you don't, then we didn't waste our own time. So that scalability gets really lethal. And that's without even talking about how the worst tech person on my team can now launch their own projects to do the people that are on our agency side, which have carried,
awesome.
4x margins.
What's success in this? I know CastleKids wasn't your biggest move that you've been involved with, but it's the one where you kind of went end to end. I don't know if you can talk about it, but what kind of money moved in that project?
Yeah, so it was $4 million in primary. So right off the bat, it was $4 million. That was split between a bunch of different parties in terms of what we did. Our net revenue was about half of that. Our gross revenue that we recognized was about half of that. Net was a little bit lower than that.
So you did one project. When you say primary, you mean it's the initial issuance of the NFTs that people can buy. First transaction.
Exactly. First like transaction when they're minted.
The finance folks.
Yep, exactly. Okay. Exactly.
So $4 million. How long did that take to make?
18 minutes was from the on sale to the money was about 18 minutes. Yeah. The process of that was a lot longer. Like me meeting
it's 8 weeks to get to that 18 minutes.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And it's like 8 weeks, like hypercharged. Like I remember at one point during the on sale, there's a bunch of funny stories I have about like this whole process, but like the day of the on sale, we had like a pre-sale going. And we, and my partner, I was in San Francisco. My partner was in New York. And I noticed, I was like, it's like 2:30 for me. I go, you're still up. And it was 5:30. And I had to order him. I go, I need you on, like, we're on sale tomorrow. Like, and he was watching like a couple of things, like making sure that like everything was tight. And I was like, dude, I got it. Like, let's just like sleep in shifts. Like we got it. But so, you say 6 to 8 weeks, you say all of these things and people think it's so easy that it's like almost insulting because the amount of like blood and like sweat and like, I think literal tears that went into that process was so grueling. But again, like now there's nothing that can phase us. Like we we dealt with the DDoS attack. We dealt with people trying to hack. We dealt with a bunch of people. We dealt with you not being able to mint. We dealt with a bunch of different things. Oh, I don't know if we dealt with it, but we solved it.
Right. Resolved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just closed the ticket. But we did so many different things that, like, success to me is, first of all, knowing that I'm not scamming people. That's like one of my biggest things, is that, like, there's so many people in the space that are so bad, and like they can make the money, they can do big things, but they're stealing, they're taking $70 million of liquidity out, for example. So that's one area of success. The other is, like, can I actually build something? Can I actually do something that, like, exists and isn't just a fugazi pretend thing? Like, I'm going to go build a game. Like, if I say I'm going to build a game, can I go build a game? If I say I'm going to do a 3D asset, can I go do a 3D asset? So far,
Right.
we've nailed every single piece of that for every project that we've done. And that's really important. Success, though, at the same time, is like, can we go and, like, really start taking this over? And again, like, with where our pipeline is at and with where we are, it is not necessarily a hits driven business, but we're always one shot away from another massive project in and of itself. So we're kind of organizing ourselves around that, taking really big shots. I mean, our pipeline has over 60 million followers in terms of, like, and that's like over like 4 or 5 people. We're very confident in the future of this. We really just want to make sure that we're building real stuff, and we're not just saying, hey, here's someone with a lot of followers, like, go buy this. That's following the ethos of crypto is really important to me as well.
Okay, so you guys have launched these successfully. You've kind of gone end to end. What are, like, the top 3 tips you'd have for people who are interested in this, whether they use your service or not? Like, what's the top 3 pro tips?
Yeah, I think don't fall for the scams. And I know that's, like, easier said than done, but there are so many people, and I've now watched a bunch of my friends try to launch projects, and I've tried to give them support where I can, but they'll go pay an influencer who is charging them like 1 ETH for a tweet, and that influencer is just botting everything. Don't fake it is another tip I would have. We, with Castle Kid, like, it would have been very easy for us to pretend like we had 60,000 people on our server. We banned about 39,000 bots as part of our process. Like, and that made us have a smaller server. Technically, it was only 25,000 when we minted, but it was real, and I knew, and everyone else knew that it was real, because we would publish, like, it was basically like putting heads on spikes. We would, like, publish, like, hey, we banned 1,100 bots, and, like, we'd show the reports of, like, how many people we had banned, and that was like, oh wow, these are actually 25,000 customers, and
Mm-hmm.
that was, like, the craziest thing. There are so many businesses as an investor that I've looked at, and I don't know that I've seen, like, growth like that. Our charts are, like, crazy. Like, the amount we were incorporated for about 18 days, I think, before we made the money, or 30 days, something like that. And, like, the power in the space is really cool, but you have to leverage it in a real way. If you don't leverage it in a real way, you'll never do another project. It'll be over. So for us, it's always been important. And then those are 2. The third is, like, it's kind of don't be fake, and then don't make sure that you have something that's unique. Don't just copy everything that's done before you. I know that you people see, oh, there's all these derivative projects, Kevin's and all that stuff made a bunch of money. But the reality is, like, those are all being done by the same people. And if you, like, dig in a little bit, you do a little bit of block exploring, it is a machine that's been created that is an evil machine, in my opinion. But it's not, a couple kids in a basement being like, let's go do a derivative. It's calculated, and it's designed to take liquidity out of the markets. A few of them are actually, like, true builders, and this is what we're going to see. The crypto winter, or the NFT winter, or the bear market, or whatever, is just going to be people getting smarter. It's not going to be people giving up. It's just going to be people getting smarter, which is why I'm so excited about NFTs 2.0, because I think true builders, there aren't very many of us. There are very few, actually. And if you have the right stuff and you're prepared, like, money flows to value in times of bear markets. And I do that as a joke, since everything's still up like 10,000%. But
Right.
Yeah, that's probably the overall.
Will you define NFT 2.0 for us? What's 1.0? What's
Yeah, so this is just a thing I've been saying recently in our pitches and things that we're talking about. Like, NFTs 1.0 was, like, the minting. So, like, getting things done, making sure that something could get on the blockchain, that people could own it, and that you could then start delivering value to the NFT. NFTs 2.0 is integrating NFTs much more largely into a broader system. So in my opinion, I think that NFTs that then create ecosystems is going to be really important. There's only 10,000 of them, 5,000, however many a collection has. But there's so many different interactions and things that you can offer that maybe not everyone wants. So in my opinion, NFTs and then tokens coming behind them are really important. I think social tokens are not very great on their own. I think they create a ton of complexity. I'm publishing something on this as well very soon. But when coupled with an ecosystem where it's like, let's say it's a musician again. I want to go on tour, or maybe I don't want to go on tour. I'm just going to hold on to the tokens and I can sell them to someone else who maybe doesn't have an NFT, but wants like a merchandise, like a signed merch. If I own the NFT, I get dropped free tokens, and then I can use that to do whatever engagement that I want. You can then also link this to like, if I listen to the album 100 times, I can earn some tokens, and like all these different types of mechanisms in which you can control engagement and you can have that like two-way street of value between the creator and the artist. But that takes time to do, and it takes real builders, and it takes real like
real technology
integrations. Yeah, exactly. And like this shit, people promise a game in like 4 months, and it's like this shit's hard. Like building things at all is hard, and then building them on the blockchain with limited devs, and now with like a war, like all these other things. Like I never thought a like global global geopolitical issues would impact like a JPEG's business, but here we are.
Yeah. So playing it back. So 1.0 is, hey, everyone gets their membership card seamlessly. 2.0 is the membership card gets you things, perks and all that other, get you into whatever. Okay, bitchin'.
And the contraction really makes, like, it's really important. Like people are like, are you, and I get it. I know so many people are waiting for like NFTs because I'm so like loud about it. I know there's so many people just waiting for it to come down, and people are like, aren't you scared? Like, aren't you worried? Like you're really leveraging up on like a very risky asset. And the reality is like, I need this to happen. Like I need people to stop looking at pictures of random animals and saying that's worth $20,000, because it's really hard to deliver a $20,000 experience. This is my biggest fear with like Yuga Labs and the apes and everything else. Like as soon as you have to start doing stuff, you remove like the fog of war, and all of a sudden that value, you have to like make that decision about the value. People went to the yacht party. It was fun. I had a great time. Was it necessarily worth the amount of money that it would cost for membership? I don't think so. And I think that I need this contraction because I can't sell a $20,000 experience. I just can't. Like, how many things do we buy that are that expensive? But I can sell $400 experiences all day. I think that that's really where the price points, these things could jump like tickets, to your point earlier, like StubHub. They could jump 2x, 3x. They shouldn't jump 100, 10,000x, because of the fact that you just can't deliver those types of things. Life is not like, there's not many things in this world that I would spend $200,000 on. And that's like the reality. And I think that that's what's necessary for 2.0 to like make sense. And like, to be honest, how people actually see, like my dad will get involved if it has like real utility, right? And it's just the speculative nature is what damages it a bit.
What does the industry need? As you're going from 1.0 to 2.0, for the entrepreneurs listening to this, how can they help? Where are the opportunities?
It needs more designers. Yeah, it's funny because like for most of my Web 2 life as an investor, I always kind of scoffed a little bit more about design, because it's like, how many different like templates or flows are there? Like I feel like we kind of have it kind of figured out a bit. But now in Web3, I'm like, man, no one knows anything. And it's silly to pretend like the experience is smooth, right? Like onboarding someone to crypto through NFTs is hell. I would never want to do it. I've never believed in NFTs as an onboarder for people. I think NFTs can get people interested in crypto, and then they need to do other things first. But it's so rife with scams, and the flows are so bad. There's half the time you click a DApp and it doesn't even like give you a notification about what's happening. So you don't even know what you're signing or anything like that. Like people are getting ripped off left and right. So we need like better UX and UI. I think those two things are like the biggest short term. You go on like ElementFi and like billions of dollars are being traded on that or staked or anything. And it looks so horrible. Like, and I guess Schwab shit does too, but like, it's a horrible experience. And like, we're better than that. Like Web3 should be like the most sleek, like futuristic, like, and it's just not. It's a Chrome browser extension and a couple other things that just like limit the optics of the experience.
Yeah. And if you're not pretty much a developer at some level, or have like been trained in technology at some level, it's hard to navigate. It's hard. It is not
horrible.
Designed for, the average consumer yet. Not even close.
Not even close. And that's one of our biggest learnings, is that I was so ready to drop all this stuff that's like super exciting to crypto people, like DAOs being involved in films and things like that. And they're just not ready. Someone says like, what was a DOA? What's a DOA? I kept getting. And I was like, that's not even how you spell it. We're so far actually. We're so far. And the reality is it's like, because who knows what's going on? It's so much. You got Discords flying around. You have people are talking about like monkeys and staking, sheep and a bunch of other like. It's so much at so little.
And the
time,
jargon's a barrier, right? Even what I'm trying to do during this, just trying to break it down to things that people can compare this to.
People say GM, I don't even know what that is.
You make it super complicated. And crypto did this too. Mining right? When you talk about when you describe to people, hey, it's computing power to process their transactions, people are like, oh, servers that run the website? Yeah, that. And that's a lot easier to understand than mining, because mining has another association in society.
Right.
So it's confusing language.
Yeah, proof of work in general is like a whole thing that like took me a while to understand. Like, yeah, that's the problem. And like, I'm sure this, again, I don't have as much visibility in this, but I'm sure the internet was like that too, of like people understanding packets and like email and all these things. Like, you have to walk. There's so many people that have been in it for so long that like they're like myself, like you just forget where people are at.
And for this technology to come of age and to get mass market appeal, it's not those consumers learning this jargon. It's the technology moving to them.
Exactly.
It's coming into natural language that we're all used to, that everyone can understand. Okay, but look, there's a lot of people jumping into this, right? Like I saw a report today that Instagram's going to get NFTs. I don't understand exactly what they're doing. What's happening here? Is this a sign that it's going mainstream? Is it jumping the shark? Who's jumping into this? I don't know if you know the jumping the shark phrase.
I saw a really good. I do. It's one of my. I actually use it a lot, and people don't ever get it. I think. I actually don't really know where it stems from, but I'm going to look it up.
I want to tell you then. It's the Happy Days.
Okay,
Happy Days. Way back when the Fonz eventually goes water skiing and does a jump in the water over a shark, and that was the moment when the show went too far. Okay. So jumping the shark.
I remember that. That's great. Yeah. So I saw a tweet earlier today that I really loved that just said, the only thing it said was, we're winning. It was a retweet of that and of the meta thing. And it just said, we're winning. The same as like, as soon as Jack Dorsey finally like admits that like it's not just Bitcoin and like other things are cool too, like then I'll get even more excited. But I don't need that. Like, this is one of the biggest things that I think is really hard for people to understand, is that like all of these things that exist might not end up being as crypto as people want. To your point about technology needing to come to them, abstracting away is the easiest path to do so, right? It's abstracting away what they're doing. You leveraging underlying technology, but one thing that we're working on pretty heavily, and every single creator asks for, is like, can I mint these in USD? And it's like, well, it's kind of not the point. Like, the whole point is to get off of this stuff. Like, I'll let you mint in USDC if you want, but like, the whole point is to get away from it. But we understand that like, that's probably what it's going to take. The metaverse is even crazier because everyone's like flocking to decentralized land and like NFTs as land. And the reality is like, gaming, all that stuff is content driven, right? Is metaverse or meta rather, or Epic Games or any of these bigger platforms. As soon as they get interested in stuff, it doesn't make your bags more valuable. It makes the underlying technology more valuable. But like, if Instagram gets an NFTs, I don't think someone's going to go buy your like, your super snail from 3 months ago. Like, they're going to buy the new shit, or they're going to buy the stuff that the platforms that they already exist on do it. And it's going to be so content driven that I think it's actually very dangerous for this like ecosystem that we've worked on for so long. Like, this decentralized, all of these different like ethos that we have. Like, OpenSea is not very decentralized. Like, they can automatically shut people down. MetaMask just shut a bunch of people down in other countries. Like, the stuff that we've been working for so long and that makes it so cool gets taken out a little bit. So I think that like those things are interesting, because I think that half of it's just press or understanding like the pure money behind things and saying like, we can beat the competition, which I completely agree with for the record. Like, we as a space need to do better about not looking like jackasses that just like throw money at anything, because then all that's going to happen is like, then you're going to get all these like cash grabbies from like major or organizations. And like, we work a lot with brands and be like, this is not a press event. This is not like, this needs to be like a thing for you guys. You need to make sure that you are working on like an ecosystem here. It doesn't have to be like, random fashion company is in the crypto now, but more like, this is the new membership, and like, this is how you get it. And these are in, points in our system, and you can abstract all the crypto stuff away, but like, are you going to adopt the technology or not? And I'm very nervous about massive centralized platforms leveraging their content arms, which are better than everyone else, and driving adoption in like a nasty way. That's my biggest fear. And I think the metaverse is not decentralized. I think the metaverse will be won by content creators. I think if you look at Epic and these other companies, like, those games are just more fun. I can't spend an hour and a half in Decentraland, but I can spend a lot of time playing Fortnite. I have spent a lot of time playing Fortnite. So I get nervous about all that, but I also think it's ultimately like gets more people into crypto in general, which is great for the underlying bags that I'm holding.
So for the organizations out here, okay, because I'd imagine there's a lot of people who are the have a title that has the word technology or innovation in it, and they need to do something for their boss, and they want to kind of make a move here to get promoted or keep your job or fill in a roadmap or listen to someone on the board, whatever, however it came about. And they're thinking, oh, okay, NFTs, we're going to go to the bottom of it. They're making an internal presentation. I'm thinking like universities, companies, nonprofits, big organizations trying to figure this out. Where should they use NFTs? Where should they not? And where should they? Let me ask it that way.
Yeah, it's a great question. They should use them for memberships, 100%. You need a certain level of engagement from your online audience. Like we've talked to certain beauty brands who are like, most of our stuff is in stores. Like we don't really have a membership. Like we might want to do that. I was like, there's no better way to launch a new vertical, in my opinion, or a new business line than NFTs because you front run your revenue, at least a little bit, right? You basically prove that an idea is good with your consumers before you do it. And if it sucks, then it sucks. It's not. Who cares? You know, no one looks at your brand as like a non-NFT native brand and is like, wow, their NFT project failed. Like that was super lame. Like I don't think the people that actually care about your brand like really notice that. It's people that you were maybe going to get are like, this was a lame move. And so is like a lot of the stuff that brands do. So memberships are the first one. For universities, I've been doing a lot of talks with universities recently, and it's super cool. Like, I don't know if they'll ever bite on this. I think it takes a lot of like much older people who move way slower to adopt this. But the reality is it's like governance and student organizations, all these things could be done in such a cooler way. Like a school is a closed ecosystem. They have meal plans. They have points that can be redeemed for things already. They already have like a lot of the foundational rails in place. They just need to shift the technology a little bit. If I could vote on policies, I would switch I would have been a lot more active in my student government. I know like universities don't really want people to be involved, but like,
right.
It does. I think it does change, like shift a lot of different things. And I think that enabling your consumers, especially people who are willing to spend the most money to engage with your brand, is the greatest way to kind of decide where you're going next. There's all that talk about like find your 100 people that are going to spend $1,000 instead of 1,000, they're going to spend 100 or whatever the phrase is there.
Okay, so we're both Columbia Business School grads. So give an example there. So how would Columbia Business School drop NFTs in a way that actually makes sense?
So they already have, I think. I might be wrong, but I know a bunch of students dropped like a collection of 100, sold out immediately. It was super cool. I was really cool to be a part of that. The way they would do it, in my opinion, is content, token gating content. So I think Harvard is like, it's such an easy decision for them, right? Because they have so much content that people want. They're already token gated. It's a great way to like tip their hand of like, hey, we're on the forefront of innovation. Even if you don't really like this, we could create a smooth experience. So you could just access our case studies and you could spend different amounts for different kinds and all that stuff. It's a really easy way to do it. The other is like for Columbia, I think, so that's part of it. I think another part of it is around like decision making and budgets that are being allocated. Like I think it should be more of a treasury. Like the amount of money I know personally that like a lot of the money that we spent on events was like very unilaterally decided by like two people, and like very centralized decision making. And I know that like there's a lot of room for like misconduct in those types of ways. So I think that a really cool thing would be to like create more treasury management systems where people vote on stuff and it's actually decided by the people. And again, these aren't scary things. These aren't super crypto things. These are just, let's use some technology in order to do this. And there's a way to do this in a Web 2.0 version too. It's just, in my opinion, not as innovative and kind of it fails to like adhere to like an infrastructure that's already built.
All right. I want to switch gears if you're open to it.
I feel
like we've hit the NFTs a bit, but I want to learn more about you. Can you give us just...
I love talking about me.
I'm sure it's uncomfortable for everybody, but you start at the top. Just give us a little overview of your background. I know you mentioned that you grew up in Las Vegas. And we overlap a little bit in some Southern California roots. Can you give us kind of a little of your story?
Yeah, so I was born in Riverside, moved to Vegas when I was 3. My dad was a concrete contractor, so he basically just moved the business to where it was the fastest. I was the first person in my family to go to a 4-year institution. I went to USC as an undergrad. I studied business, and then my dad made me. And then I studied music, which was my real passion. Thereafter, I got a double major in both of those. When I was a sophomore in college, so I wasn't yet 21, I performed with Dylan Francis, who was just coming up as a DJ at like a random USC party. I was just playing music a bunch as much as I could, just getting in front of people.
What are you doing? You up there on a guitar? Or what are you?
Yeah, so I'm like I played piano and guitar growing up. I can play pretty much any instrument with a keyboard basically. But now I was just performing my songs that I had produced and just DJing. So I did that. He came up to me and asked me like what a song was. And I was like, oh, that's something that I made. He's like, damn, like I didn't realize that you were playing like a random like basement show. And he's like, would you want to come play like around LA? I was like, yeah, I'd love to. So played a couple shows after that. He got me connected, and then eventually met a couple other people who got me even more ingrained. I was bringing like a whole college crowd to everything, which is like every club's dream. So it's, I won't pretend like it was just because I was, a musical genius, but more that I was a marketing genius, I think, and could fill rooms, which I knew was the biggest thing. And then I got a couple like domestic tours. Went on tour with like Lil Jon, Disclosure, T-Pain, a bunch of different acts, and then leveraged that to get myself into the music business at WME, doing music touring. Did that, worked for the head of the music department in about 3 months, from the mailroom to working for him, which was insane. Got to see the whole big business, decided I hated it. Asked to move to the finance and accounting department because we had just bought the UFC, and like we were so excited. I was so excited about like, oh wow, we're becoming like bigger than an agency. I want to be involved on the M&A stuff. And they said no because I was like a musician, so they wouldn't let me do it. So I started a company doing like stock trade alert service. Just built it myself using like Twilio and a couple other things. So anyone that wanted to follow my portfolio would just spend $10 to $100 a month, depending on what access they wanted. And also called Minotaur, funny enough, Minotaur Insights though. And got it. Yeah. Got over 1,000 users. Front page of Wall Street Bets, did 200 and something percent in 2017. Took it to my boss and I said, look, this partner, and like all of your friends are all signed up for my business. I clearly know what I'm talking about in terms of analyzing companies. Let me switch into the department. Let me go do finance and accounting. And finally let me do it. And then first deal that I worked on was Dapper Labs and CryptoKitties back in 2017. So that was what red pilled me. I converted everything to crypto. So I started investing in crypto pretty heavily. All my users like just cratered. Like the entire company ended up getting knocked out because everyone was like, you're a madman. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, you guys have followed me until this point. I've made everyone a lot of money. Like, let's rock. So lost a lot of that. And then crypto winter knocked me out. So I was like, I got to go back to school. I got to find myself, do all that stuff. Did a bunch of VC investing, and then started Minotaur after Columbia Business School.
So what's the background on the name Minotaur? Why is everything?
I'm just obsessed with it. So there's two angles. One is half man, half bull. So I'm like not a bull only. I'm actually fairly bearish on many things, but I do believe when I believe in something, I go full bore into it. So I am just a man, but I also like that thing. Also, the Minotaur, like historically, is just such a cool. Outside of like the really like weird stuff, like the Minotaur story is really interesting. Like finding your way through a maze, like this like beast that was like crushing kids and things like that. Like it's just an interesting story to me, and I just felt like both of those played so well in like a market type business. And both of the companies, like the reason I kept the name for this one is because they're both onboarders in a way, right? Like creating a smoother onboarding experience for creators to launch projects and like join the ownership economy is like the whole ethos of Minotaur. And enabling like all my friends who were first time earners because they had just gotten out of college, they'd never made money before, enabling them to enter the markets more safely with like a guide, like a guided hand was all I was doing at Minotaur Insights. So I feel like that like thread continued. It's also been most of what I've been doing throughout my life. Like I've published a lot of content. Like I've always been into like showing people how to do stuff. It's like something that like drives a lot of like personal happiness and fulfillment for me beyond like the financial nature of things.
Now, it seems like you're a little bit of a wild man, right? Like this sector you're chasing and everything else. What are the life experiences that have kind of helped shape you? How did you get here?
I'm addicted to risk, I think. My dad is an entrepreneur, especially as like a non-traditional entrepreneur, like someone who just like started a real business and like, and I'm not knocking anyone when I say that, but like
that's actually a traditional entrepreneur. We're all the non-traditional ones.
Yeah, exactly. Like no, like he owned 100% of the company, like never raised capital, never really dealt with anything outside of just like, let's go make money and build houses. That taught me to like take risks and like to push into things as much as possible. When I was younger, I was like obsessed with like experience is like the currency of life. Like I kept saying that like to the point where I think it was really annoying. And I kept saying like, I need to experience every single thing. Like I don't want to miss a show. I FOMO'd into every single thing. And it was like a reckless amount. I was chasing like a skydiving license. So I did 24 jumps, in like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. Like I was driving to Paris, California, every moment that I had, and sleeping there overnight in like a bunk with like 8 other people that I'd never met before. And like skydivers are like weird people in general. So like just a weird experience. And then my 24th jump right before the license at 25, my parachute didn't deploy. I had to pull my reserve, and nearly crashed to my death. And I was like, man, I would have been
Whoa.
so pissed if that happened. Yeah, it was nuts. And I
You would have been
jumped
dead.
24 jumps. I would have been dead. Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when I pulled my reserve, it's a whole crazy experience. Like you have to like decouple your main chute like through two pulls here, and then you go back into free fall, and then you have to then pull your reserve, which is spring loaded and this whole other thing.
So how long do you
but it's
need from the moment you realize you're fucked till you can get
So you have
the reserve out?
Yeah, it's cool.
How much time
So
do
you
you
have like
have?
an altimeter on your wrist, and it
Yeah.
says like how high you are, and it has like a yellow, like, hey, like you should decide, you should pull here, and then it has like if you pull after this, like you won't stop that fast enough. It's funny because it's been so long. I think it's 2,500 feet, 3,000 feet. You drop about 1,000 feet a second. You jump from like 15,000 feet, so you don't have that much time. And the thing is, like, you play around for a bit too, because you're enjoying yourself. So like, I flipped out of the plane. I was messing around. I pulled it like kind of, whatever ish late. I knew that I was like going to get my license soon anyway. And then I looked up and like this thing was like real curled, and I was still falling. Like, there's a real big difference between free flow. Don't know if you've ever done it, but like between free fall and then floating. And I was like, I'm not floating. I'm still falling pretty fast. I looked up and my thing was all fucked up. And then I pulled my thing off, pulled it off, go back into free fall. And then you don't really remember a lot of that. Like, you're just so well trained. They make you do that before every single jump. Like, exactly, like I could do it right now. Like, I feel right where it is. And that, like, it's funny because that actually taught me a ton. Like, I realized that like within reason, like I started looking like both ways before I crossed the street after that. Like, I was like, man, life is like, I have so much more to do. There's so many more things that I want, but like this level of risk, I was riding motorcycles all the time. Like, I was doing everything I could to just soak up that like adrenaline. I was like going to music festivals. I mean, I still go to like 10 to 12 music festivals a year. I'm so like addicted to the rush of that stuff. And the funny thing is that like none of those rushes were anything like the Castle Kit on sale, right? Like, or the Creature World on sale, or any of those things. Like, success in business is like very addictive as well, especially with like that rush of like the fact that it's all jam packed into a moment is like so cool. And I think that I've really found like the perfect like nexus between like my old life in music and my future of investing and all those other things. Like, it seems like the perfect storm for me in terms of like my connectivity to artists and ability to like speak both languages. Like, I can't imagine a better fit in my mind.
Yeah, it seems like you were made for this path. So you're here now, and you've been in the fire, and you've learned a lot. What are the most important things you learned about entrepreneurship? What tips can you offer people?
Yeah, I think this one is like know when to spend the money. I think in terms of like fundraising and those things, like I think people, I don't know how other people feel about this, but I've always been like super frugal. Like growing up in my family, like we before my dad's business like moved to Las Vegas, like it was a struggle. Like, concrete in California is like not that big of a thing. And I grew up like really understanding like the value of money. I used to be so scared. Like, my mom would give me money for lunch at school, and I would just find like free lunch around school, and I would just pocket the money because I was so terrified that we were going to get kicked out of our house, and like we were renting it, like we didn't own anything, and we had no furniture. I was like sharing a bed with my cousin, like all this crazy stuff. So I've always been so like frugal, and like I don't want to spend money. If I can learn it, I'll just do it. So with like my company too, like with Minotaur originally, there's a guy that was like, yeah, I could build this app for you for like, this amount of money. And I was like, no shot. Like, I'll just go learn it for that amount of money. Like, I value my time and my own bank more to do it. The thing is, like with investing though, like the whole point is that you're supercharging that. And I think that that's like been one of my earlier lessons is like, you can just spend the money to get help and to where you're not doing everything. My team had to tell me like, dude, you got to pull off of like the art generation. Like, it makes no sense for you to do that. And I think that's like the biggest lesson is like having trust in not only your team, but also in your own ability to allocate capital, even though it's something that like is maybe something newer for you. Trust that you need to spend money on the things that you need to spend money on to arm yourself to be lethal otherwise. And I think like finding out who I was and who I am and like what I'm really good at, and like it's really just talking. Like, I'm really good at being an agent. I worked at WME. Like, I have a really strong like ability to sell and make people understand things. And I kept hearing that feedback, and I was like, used to be afraid to even talk on the phone, like to like call the doctor's office or anything. And
Funny
now
how
like,
it works out, right?
That is it's crazy. That's like my biggest strength now. And like, I'm telling like where we're at as a company is because of the entire team executing, but it's not possible without me, out there selling and doing that. And like, if I don't do that, we can't execute. And if I'm too busy worrying about working or learning how to do Solidity and like not paying an engineer because I was like, I could just do his job. I don't know what he's doing all the time. Like all that, like that's not the right way to do it when you're trying to move fast. And that's been my biggest thing that I had to learn because with my dad, it was just way different. And I've never had that kind of guidance. And so now, yeah, spend the money when you need to spend the money and know that you're better than you think, and you put the team around you for a reason. And if you don't like the people that are around you, then just go get someone else. It's a big world.
It's great having you on. I learned a ton. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's always a blast.
So Sterling is clearly fascinating. And I love being able to talk to people who are in these frontier industries who are not totally drunk on the Kool-Aid. You get a little dose of reality and some insight into how all these novel technologies, such as NFTs in this case, will actually be integrated and applied to society going forward. This is where I pander and ask you to help out. If you liked what you heard, give us a 5-star review, share with a friend, anything else you can do. You can find me on Twitter @MPD, and to hear more of my conversations with innovators, you can subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, or any major podcast platform. Just search for Innovation with Mark Peter Davis.